Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Sat Shri Akal to all my dear viewers. Here again Farah Khan and you are watching Fulgent Fact. Today I bring the video about our planet Earth. Before starting the video, I would like to say if you did not subscribe my channel, kindly subscribe. If you like the video, press like. If you want more notification, press bell icon. And it's my humble request to all my dear viewers, kindly watch the video till the end. Without taking more time, let's start. Let's know about the planet Earth. Earth is the only planet known to support life, and its natural features are the subject of many fields of scientific research. Within the solar system, it is third closest to the Sun. It is the largest terrestrial planet and the fifth largest overall. Its most prominent climate features are its two larger polar regions, two relatively narrow temperate zones, and a wide equatorial tropical to subtropical region. Precipitation varies widely with locations from several meters of water per year to less than a millimeter. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by saltwater ocean. The remainder consists of continents and islands, with most of the inhabited land in the northern hemisphere. Earth has evolved through geological and biological processes that have left traces of the original conditions. The outer surface is divided into several gradually migrating tectonic plates. The interior remains active with a thick layer of plastic mantle and an iron filled core that generates a magnetic field. This iron core is composed of a solid inner face and a fluid outer face. Convective motion in the core generates electric currents through dynamo action, and these in turn generates the geomagnetic field. The atmospheric conditions have been significantly altered from the original conditions by the presence of life forms, which create an ecological balance that stabilizes the surface conditions despite the wide regional variation in climate by latitude and other geographic factors. The long-term average global climate is quite stable during interglacial periods, and variations of a degree or two of average global temperature have historically had measured effects on the ecological balance and on the actual geography of the Earth. Let's know about geology. Geology is the science and study of the solid and liquid matter that constitutes the earth. The field of geology encompasses the study of the composition, structure, physical properties, dynamics, and history of earth materials and the processes by which they are formed, moved, and changed. The field is a major academic discipline and is also important for mineral and hydrocarbon extraction, knowledge about the mitigation of natural hazards, some geotechnical engineering fields, and understanding parts, climate, and environments. The geology of an area evolves through time as rock units are deposited and inserted and deformational processes changes their shapes and locations. Rock units are first emplaced either by deposition onto the surface or intrude into the overlying rock. Deposition can occur when sediments settle onto the surface of the earth and later liquefy into sedimentary rock, or when as volcanic material such as volcanic ash or lava flows blanket the surface. Igneous intrusions such as batholiths, laccoliths, dikes, and sills push upwards into the overlying rock and crystallize as they intrude. After the initial sequence of rocks has been deposited, the rock units can be deformed and or metamorphosed. Deformation typically occurs as a result of horizontal shortening, horizontal extension, or side-to-side motion. These structural regimes broadly relate to convergent boundaries, divergent boundaries, and transform boundaries, respectively, between tectonic plates. Now let's know about the historical perspective of the planet Earth. Earth is estimated to have formed 4.54 billion years ago from the solar nebula, along with the Sun and other planets. The Moon formed roughly 20 million years later. Initially molten, the outer layer of the Earth cooled, resulting in the solid crust. Outgassing and volcanic activity produced the primordial atmosphere. Condensing water vapor, most or all of which came from ice delivered by comets, produced the oceans and other water sources. The highly energetic chemistry is believed to have produced a self-replicating molecule around 4 billion years ago. Continents formed, then broke up and reformed as the surface of Earth reshaped over hundreds of millions of years, occasionally combining to make a supercontinent. Roughly 750 million years ago, the earliest known supercontinent, Rodinia, began to break apart. The continents later recombined to form Pannonia, which broke apart about 540 million years ago. Then finally, Pangaea, which broke apart about 180 million ago. During the New Proterozoic era, freezing temperatures covered much of the Earth in glaciers and ice sheets. This hypothesis has been termed the snowball Earth, and it is of particular interest as it precedes the Cambrian explosion, in which multicellular life forms began to proliferate about 530 to 540 million years ago. Since the Cambrian explosion, there have been 5 distinctly identifiable mass extinctions. The last mass extinction occurred some 66 million years ago when a meteorite collision probably triggered the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs and other large reptiles, but spared small animals such as mammals. Over the past 66 million years, mammalian life diversified. Several million years ago, a species of small African ape gained the ability to stand upright. The subsequent advent of human life and the development of agriculture and further civilization allowed humans to affect the earth more rapidly than any previous life form, affecting both the nature and quantity of other organisms as well as global climate. By comparison, the great oxygenation event produced by the proliferations of algae during the Siberian period required about 300 million years to culminate. The present era is classified as part of a mass extinction event, the Horocene extinction event, the fastest ever to have occurred. Some, such as E. O. Wilson of Harvard University, predict that human destruction of the biosphere could cause the extinction of one half of all species in the next 100 years. The extent of the current extinction event is still being researched, debated, and calculated by biologists. Now, let's know about the atmosphere, climate, and weather of the Earth. The Earth's atmosphere is a key factor in sustaining the ecosystem. The thin layer of gases that envelops the Earth is held in place by gravity. Air is mostly nitrogen, oxygen, water vapor with much smaller amounts of carbon dioxide, argon, etc. The atmospheric pressure declines steadily with altitude. The ozone layer plays an important role in depleting the amount of ultraviolet radiation that reaches the surface. As DNA is readily damaged by UV light, this serves to protect life at the surface. The atmosphere also retains heat during the night, thereby reducing the daily temperatures extremes. Terrestrial weather occurs almost exclusively in the lower part of the atmosphere and serves as a convective system for redistributing heat. Ocean currents are another important factor in determining climate, particularly the major underwater thermohaline circulation, which distributes heat energy from the equatorial oceans to the polar regions. These currents help to moderate the differences in temperature between winter and summer in the temperate zone. Also, without the redistributions of heat energy by the ocean currents and atmospheres, the tropics would be much hotter and the polar region much colder. Weather can have both beneficial and harmful effects. Extremes in weather, such as tornadoes or hurricanes and cyclones, can expend large amounts of energy along their paths and produce devastation. Surface vegetation has evolved a dependence on the seasonal variation of the weather, and sudden changes lasting only a few years can have a dramatic effect both on the vegetation and on the animals which depend on its growth for their food. Climate is a measure of the long-term trends in the weather. Various factors are known to influence the climate, including ocean currents, surface albedo, greenhouse gases, variation in the solar luminosity, and changes to the Earth's orbit. Based on historical records, the Earth is known to have undergone drastic climate changes in the past, including Ice Age. The climate of a region depends on a number of factors, especially latitude. A latitudinal band of the surface with similar climatic attributes forms a climate region. There are a number of such regions, ranging from the tropical climate at the equator to the polar climate in the northern and southern. Weather is also influenced by the seasons, which result from the Earth's axis being tilted relative to its orbital plane. Thus, at any given time during the summer or winter, one part of the Earth is more directly exposed to the rays of the sun. The exposure alternates as the Earth revolves in its orbit. At any given time, regardless of season, the northern and southern hemispheres experience opposite seasons. Weather is a chaotic system that is readily modified by small changes to the environment, so accurate weather forecasting is limited to only a few days. Overall, two things are happening worldwide. First, temperature is increasing on the average, and second, regional climates have been undergoing noticeable changes. Now let's know about water on Earth. Water is a chemical substance that is composed of hydrogen and oxygen, H2O, and is vital for all known forms of life. In typical usage, water refers only to its liquid form or state, but the substance also has a solid state, ice, and gaseous state, water vapor, or steam. Water covers 71% of the Earth's surface. On Earth, it is found mostly in oceans and other large bodies of water, with 1.6% of water below ground in aquifers and 0.001% in the air as vapor, clouds, and precipitation. Oceans hold 97% of surface water, glaciers and polar ice caps 2.4%, and other land surface water such as rivers, lakes and ponds 0.6%. Additionally, a minute amount of the Earth's water is contained within biological bodies and manufactured products. Let's know about the ocean on the Earth. An ocean is a major body of saline water and a principal component of the hydrosphere. Approximately 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by ocean, a continuous body of water that is customarily divided into several principal oceans and similar seas. More than half of this area is over 3,000 meters. Average oceanic salinity is around 35 parts per thousand, and nearly all seawater has a salinity in the range of 30 to 38 ppt. Though generally recognized as several separate oceans, these waters comprise one global, interconnected body of salt water, often referred to as the world ocean or global ocean. The concept of a global ocean as a continuous body of water with relatively free interchange among its parts is of fundamental importance to oceanography. The major oceanic divisions are defined in part by the continents, various archipelagos, and other criteria. These divisions are the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Southern Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. Smaller regions of the oceans are called seas. Gulfs, bays, and other names. These are also salt lakes, which are smaller bodies of landlocked salt water that are not interconnected with the world ocean. Two notable examples of salt lakes are the Aral Sea and the Great Salt Lake. Let's know about the lakes. A lake is a terrene feature, a body of liquid on the surface of a world that is localized to the bottom of basin and moves slowly if it moves at all. On Earth, a body of water is considered a lake when it is inland, not part of the ocean, is larger and deeper than a pond, and is fed by a river. The only world other than Earth known to harbor lakes is Titan, Saturn's largest moon, which has lakes of Eden, most likely mixed with methane. It is not known if Titan's lakes are fed by rivers, though Titan's surface is carved by numerous river beds. Natural lakes on Earth are generally found in mountainous areas, rift zones, and areas with ongoing or recent glaciation. Other lakes are found in endorheic basins or along the courses of mature rivers. In some parts of the world, there are many lakes because of chaotic drainage patterns left over from the last ice age. All lakes are temporary over geologic time scales, as they will slowly fill in with sediments or spill out of the basin containing them. Let's know about the ponds. A pond is a body of standing water, either natural or man-made, that is usually smaller than a lake. A wide variety of man-made bodies of water are classified as ponds, including water gardens designed for aesthetic ornamentation, fish ponds designed for commercial fish breeding, and solar ponds designed to store thermal energy. Ponds and lakes are distinguished from streams via current speed. While currents in streams are easily observed, ponds and lakes possess thermally driven microcurrents and moderate wind-driven currents. These features distinguish a pond from many other aquatic terrene features such as stream pools and tide pools. Let's know about the rivers on the earth. A river is a natural water course, usually fresh water, flowing towards an ocean, a lake, a sea, or another river. In a few cases, a river simply flows into the ground or dries up completely before reaching another body of water. Small rivers may also be called by several other names, including stream, creek, brook, rivulet, and rill. There is no general rule that defines what can be called a river. Many names for small rivers are specific to geographic location. One example is Burn in Scotland and northeast England. Sometimes a river is said to be larger than a creek, but this is not always the case due to vagueness in the language. A river is a part of the hydrological cycle. Water within a river is generally collected from precipitation through surface runoff, groundwater, recharge springs, and the release of stored water in natural ice and snowpacks. Let's know what is streams. A stream is a flowing body of water with a current confined within a bed and stream banks. In the United States, a stream is classified as a water course less than 60 feet wide. Streams are important as conduits in the water cycle, instruments in groundwater recharge, and they serve as corridors for fish and wildlife migration. The biological habitat in the immediate vicinity of a stream is called a riparian zone. Given the status of the ongoing Holocene extinction, streams play an important corridor role in connecting fragmented habitats and thus in conserving biodiversity. The study of streams and waterways in general involves many branches of interdisciplinary natural science and engineering, including hydrology, fluvial geomorphology, aquatic ecology, fish biology, riparian ecology, and others. Now I am going to tell about the ecosystem on the planet Earth. Ecosystems are composed of a variety of biotic and abiotic components that function in an interrelated way. The structure and composition is determined by various environmental factors that are interrelated. Variations of these factors will initiate dynamic modifications to the ecosystem. Some of the more important components are soil, atmosphere, radiation from the sun, water, and living organisms. Central to the ecosystem concept is the idea that living organisms interact with every other element in their local environment. Eugene Adam, a founder of ecology, stated, "Any unit that includes all the organisms in a given area interacting with the physical environment so that a flow of energy leads to clearly defined trophic structure, biotic diversity, and material cycles within the system is an ecosystem." Within the ecosystem, species are connected and dependent upon one another in the food chain and exchange energy and matter between themselves as well as with their environment. The human ecosystem concept is based on the human nature dichotomy and the idea that all species are ecologically dependent on each other as well as with the abiotic constituents of the biotope. A smaller unit of size is called a microecosystem. For example, a microecosystem can be a stone and all the life under it. A macroecosystem might involve a whole ecoregion with its drainage basin. Let's know about the wilderness. Wilderness is generally defined as areas that have not been significantly modified by the human activity. Wilderness area can be found in preserves, states, farms, conservation preserves, ranches, national forests, national parks, and even in urban areas along river gulches or otherwise undeveloped areas. Wilderness areas and protected parks are considered important for the survival of certain species, ecological studies, conservation, and solitude. Some nature writers believe wilderness areas are vital for the human spirit and creativity, and some ecologists consider wilderness areas to be an integral part of the Earth's self-sustaining natural ecosystem. They may also preserve historic genetic traits, and they provide habitat for wild flora and fauna that may be difficult or impossible to recreate in zoos, arboretums, or laboratories. Life on Earth. Although there is no universal agreement on the definition of life, scientists generally accept that the biological manifestation of life is characterized by organization, metabolism, growth, adaptation, response to stimuli, and reproduction. Life may also be said to be simply the characteristic state of organisms. Properties common to terrestrial organisms are that they are cellular, carbon, and water-based with complex organization, having a metabolism, a capacity to grow, respond to stimuli, and reproduce. An entity with these properties is generally considered life. However, not every definition of life considers all of these properties to be essential. Human-made analogues of life may also be considered to be a life. The biosphere is the part of Earth's outer shell, including land, surface, rocks, water, air, and the atmosphere, within which life occurs and which biotic processes in turn after are transformed. From the broadest geophysiological point of view, the biosphere is the global ecological system integrating all living beings and their relationships, including their interaction with the elements of the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. The entire Earth contains over 75 billion tons of biomass, which lives within various environments within the biosphere. Over 9/10 of the total biomass on Earth is plant life, on which animal life depends very heavily for its existence. More than 2 million species of plant and animal life have been identified to date, and estimates of the actual number of existing species range from several million to well over 50 million. The number of individual species of life is constantly in some degree of flux, with new species appearing and others ceasing to exist on a continual basis. The total number of species is in rapid decline. Let's know about evolution. The origin of life on Earth is not well understood, but it is known to have occurred at least 3.5 billion years ago during the Hadean or Archean eons on a primordial Earth that had substantially different environment that is found at present. These life forms possess the basic traits of self-replication and inheritable traits. Once life had appeared, the process of evolution by natural selection resulted in the development of ever more diverse life forms. Species that were unable to adapt to the changing environment and competition from other life forms become extinct. However, the fossil record retains evidence of many of these older species. Current fossil and DNA evidence shows that all existing species can trace a continual ancestry back to the first primitive life forms. When basic forms of plant life developed, the process of photosynthesis The sun's energy could be harvested to create conditions which allowed for more complex life forms. The resultant oxygen accumulated in the atmosphere and gave rise to the ozone layer. The incorporation of smaller cells within larger ones resulted in the development of yet more complex cells called eukaryotes. Cells within colonies became increasingly specialized, resulting in true multicellular organisms. With the ozone layer absorbing harmful ultraviolet radiation, life colonized the surface of Earth. Now, microbes. The first form of life to develop on the earth were microbes, and they remained the only form of life until about 1 billion years ago when multicellular organisms began to appear. Microorganisms are single-celled organisms that are generally microscopic and smaller than the human eye can see. They include bacteria, fungi, archaea, and procista. These life forms are found in almost every location on the earth where there is liquid water, including in the earth's interior. Their reproduction is both rapid and profuse. The combination of a high mutation rate and a horizontal gene transfer ability makes them highly adaptable and able to survive in new environments, including outer space. They form an essential part of the planetary ecosystem. However, some microorganisms are pathogenic and can pose health risks to other organisms. Let's know about plants and animals on the earth. Originally, Aristotle divided all living things between plants which generally do not move fast enough for humans to notice and animals. In lineage system, these became the kingdom Vegetabula and Animalia. Since then, it has become clear that the plantae has originally defined including several unrelated groups, and the fungi and several groups of algae were removed to new kingdoms. However, these are still often considered plants in many contexts. Bacterial life is sometimes included in flora, and some classifications use the term bacterial flora separately from plant flora. Among the many ways of classifying plants are by regional floras, which depending on the purpose of study can also include fossil flora, remnants of plants' life from a previous era. People in many regions and countries take great pride in their individual arrays of characteristic flora, which can vary widely across the globe due to the difference in climate and terrain. Regional floras commonly are divided into categories such as native flora and agriculture and garden flora, the lastly mentioned of which are intentionally grown and cultivated. Some types of native flora actually have been introduced centuries ago by people migrating from one region or continent to another and become an integral part of the native or natural flora of the place to which they were introduced. This is an example of how human interaction with nature can blur the boundary of what is considered nature. Another category of plant has historically been carved out for weeds, though the term has fallen into disfavor among botanists as a formal way to categorize useless plants. The informal use of the words weeds to describe those plants that are deemed worthy of elimination is illustrative of the general tendency of people and societies to seek to alter or shape the course of nature. Similarly, animals are often categorized in which, such as domestic farm animals, wild animals, pests, etc., according to their relationship to human life. Animals as a category have several characteristics that generally set them apart from other living things. Animals are eukaryotic and usually multicellular, which separates them from bacteria, archaea, and most protists. They are heterotrophic, generally digesting food in an internal chamber, which separates them from plants and algae. They are also distinguished from plants, algae, and fungi by lacking cell walls. With a few exceptions, most notably the two phyla consisting of sponges and phylacozoans, animals have bodies that are differentiated into tissues. These include muscles, which are able to contract and control locomotion, and a nervous system, which sends and processes signals. There is also typically an internal digestive chamber. The eukaryotic cells possessed by all animals are surrounded by a characteristic extracellular matrix composed of collagen and elastic glycoproteins. These may be classified to form structures like shells, bones, and spicules, a framework upon which cells can move about and be reorganized during development and maturation, and which supports the complex anatomy required for mobility. Now let's know about human interrelationship on the planet Earth. Although humans comprise only a minuscule proportion of the total living biomass on Earth, the human effect on nature is disproportionately large because of the extent of human influence. The boundaries between what humans regard as nature and made environment is not clear-cut except at the extremes. Even at the extremes, the amount of natural environment that is free of discernible human influence is diminishing at an increasingly rapid pace. The development of technology by the human race has allowed the greater exploitation of natural resources and has helped to alleviate some of the risk from natural hazards. In spite of the progress, however, the fate of human civilization remains closely linked to changes in the environment. There exists a highly complex feedback loop between the use of advanced technology and changes to the environment that are only slowly becoming understood. Man-made threats to the Earth's natural environment include pollution, deforestation, and disasters such as oil spills. Humans have contributed to the extinction of many plants and animals. Humans employ nature for both leisure and economic activities. The acquisition of natural resources for industrial use remains a sizable component of the world's economic system. Some activities such as hunting and fishing are used for both sustenance and leisure, often by different people. Agriculture was first adopted around the 9th millennium BCE, ranging from food production to energy. Nature influences economic wealth. Although early humans gathered and cultivated plant materials for food and employed the medicinal properties of vegetation for healing, most modern human use of plants is through agriculture. The clearance of large tracts of lands for crop growth has led to a significant reduction in the amount available of forestation and wetlands, resulting in the loss of habitats for many plants and animal species as well as increased erosion. Aesthetics and beauty. Beauty in nature has historically been a prevalent theme in art and books, filling large sections of libraries and bookstores. That nature has been depicted and celebrated by so much art, photography, poetry, and other literature shows the strength which many people associate nature and beauty. Reasons why this association exists and what the association consists of are studied by the branch of philosophy called aesthetics. Beyond certain basic characteristics that many philosophers agree about to explain what is seen as beautiful, the opinions are virtually endless. Nature and wildness have been important subjects in various eras of world history. An early tradition of landscape art began in China during the Tang dynasty. The tradition of representing nature as it is become one of the aim of Chinese painting and was a significant influence in Asian art. Although natural wonders are celebrated in the Psalms and the Book of Jobs, wilderness portrayals in art became more prevalent in the 1800th century, especially in the works of the Romantic movement. British artists John Constable and J.M.W. Turner turned into attention to capturing the beauty of the natural world in their paintings. Before that, paintings had been primarily of religious scenes or of human beings. William Wordsworth's poetry described the wonder of the natural world, which had formerly been viewed as a threatening place. Increasingly, the valuing of nature became an aspect of Western culture. The artistic movement also coincided with the transcendentalist movement in the Western world. A common classical idea of beautiful art involves the word mimesis, the imitation of nature. Also, in the realm of ideas about beauty in nature, is that the perfect is implied through perfect mathematical forms and more generally by patterns in nature. As David Rothenberg writes, the beautiful is the root of science and the goal of art, the highest possibility that humanity can ever hope to see. Let's know about matter and energy on planet Earth. Some fields of science see nature as matter in motion, obeying certain laws of nature, which science seeks to understand. For this reason, the most fundamental science is generally understood to be physics, the name for which is still recognizable as meaning that is the study of nature. Matter is commonly defined as the substance of which physical objects are composed. It constitutes the observable universe. The visible components of the universe are now believed to compose only 4.9% of the total mass. The remainder is believed to consist of 26.8% cold dark matter and 68.3% dark energy. The exact arrangement of these components is still unknown and is under intensive investigation by physicists. The behavior of matter and energy throughout the observable universe appears to follow well-defined physical laws. These laws have been employed to produce cosmological models that successfully explain the structure and the evolution of the universe we can observe. The mathematical expression of the laws of physics employ a set of 20 physical constants that appear to be static across the observable universe. The values of these constants have been carefully measured, but the reason for their specific values remain a mystery. Beyond the Earth. Outer space, also simply called space, refers to the relatively empty region of the universe outside the atmospheres of celestial bodies. Outer space is used to distinguish it from air space. There is no discrete boundary between Earth's atmosphere and space, as the atmosphere gradually attenuates with increasing altitude. Outer space within the solar system is called interplanetary space, which passes over into interstellar space at what is known as the heliopause. Outer space is sparsely filled with several dozen types of organic molecules discovered to date by microwave spectroscopy, black-body radiation left over from the Big Bang, and the origin of the universe, and cosmic rays, which include ionized atomic nuclei and various subatomic particles. There is also some gas plasma and dust and small meteors. Additionally, there are signs of human life in outer space today, such as material life over from previous manned and unmanned launches, which are a potential hazard to spacecraft. Some of this debris re-enters the atmosphere periodically. Although Earth is the only body within the solar system known to support life, evidence suggests that in the distant past, the planet Mars possessed bodies of liquid water on the surface. For a brief period in Mars history, it may have also been capable of forming life. At present, though most of the water remaining on Mars is frozen, if life exists at all on Mars, it is mostly likely to be located underground where liquid water can still exist. Conditions on the other terrestrial planets, Mercury and Venus, appear to be too harsh to support life as we know it, but it has been conjectured that Europa, the fourth largest moon of Jupiter, may possess a subsurface ocean of liquid water and could potentially host life. Astronomers have started to discover extrasolar Earth analogues, planets that lie in the habitable zone of space surrounding a star and therefore cloud possibly host life as we know it. Now let's know about the natural resources. Natural resources are resources that exist without any action of humankind. This includes all valued characteristics such as magnetic, gravitational, electrical properties, and forests, etc. On Earth, it includes sunlight, atmosphere, water, land, along with all vegetation, crops, and animal life that naturally subsist upon or within the previously identified characteristics and substances. Particular areas such as the rainforest in Fatohiva are often characterized by biodiversity and geodiversity. Existent in their ecosystem, natural resources may be further classified in different ways. Natural resources are materials and components that can be found within the environment. Every man-made product is composed of natural resources. Natural resources may exist as separate entities such as fresh water, air, and as well as any living organism such as a fish, or it may exist in an alternate form that must be processed to obtain the resource such as metal ores, rare earth elements, petroleum, and most forms of energy. There is much debate worldwide over natural resources allocation. This is particularly true during periods of increasing scarcity and shortage. Now, depletion of resources. In recent years, the depletion of natural resources has become a major focus of governments and organizations such as the United Nations. This is evident in the UN's Agenda 21 section 2, which outlines the necessary steps for countries to take to sustain their natural resources. The depletion of natural resources is considered a sustainable development issue. The term sustainable development has many interpretations, most notably the Brundtland Commission, to ensure that it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. However, in broad terms, it is balancing the needs of the planet, people, and species now in the future. In regards to natural resources, depletion is of concern for sustainable development as it has the ability of degrade current environments and the potential to impact the needs of future generations. Depletion of natural resources is associated with social inequity. Considering most biodiversity are located in developing countries, depletion of this resource could result in losses of ecosystem services for these countries. Some view this depletion as a major source of social unrest and conflicts in developing nations. At present, there is a particular concern for rainforest regions that hold most of the Earth's biodiversity. According to Nelson, deforestation and degradation affect 8.5% of the world's forest, with 30% of the Earth's surface already cropped. If we consider that 80% of people rely on medicines obtained from plants and 3 by 4 of the world's prescription medicines have ingredients taken from plants, Loss of the world's rainforest could result in a loss of finding more potential life-saving medicines. The depletion of natural resources is caused by direct drivers of changes such as mining, petroleum extraction, fishing, and forestry, as well as indirect drivers of change such as demography, economy, society, politics, and technology. The current practice of agriculture is another factor causing depletion of natural resources. For example, the depletion of nutrients in the soil due to excessive use of nitrogen and desertification. The depletion of natural resources is a continuing concern for society. This is seen in the cited quote given by the Theodore Roosevelt, a well-known conservationist and former United States president who was opposed to unregulated natural resource extraction. Now video is going to be completed. I hope you all like this video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.